Jake Herbert's going to come back door, gets to the leg. Ruth catches the far ankle. Herbert's going to take that bottom leg and try to tip it over, and he's going to. Jake Herbert's going to pull two more, and he's going to come. Herbert, 2009 world silver medalist, 2012 Olympian, 2010 world team member as well.
Yeah, it's programming. I mean, it comes down to brainwashing and programming. I mean, your brain is a computer, right? You have hardware that's in there, and you have software, and it can all be replaced. Hardware is a lot harder to replace than software, but you want to start with the software, right? And just a couple exercises that I do, right?
Fantastic. Stopping him. Herbert has him in the air, coming out the back door. If Herbert can slip that left arm through, pop his head, and put Ruth there in danger, that's going to be two. Jake Herbert has teched Ed Ruth, and that's number one.
All right, well, we're rolling now, so little microphone issues there, but happy to have you on. Thanks for joining us, guys. We're joined by Jake Herbert today. So if you don't know who Jake is, a lot of great accomplishments out there. I'm really excited to talk about kind of not only his athletic accomplishments, just to kind of lay some groundwork, but definitely to get into like how that translates to life, business, fatherhood. I think he's got a really interesting perspective on a lot of those things, and someone who's kind of done it. So I'm looking forward to really diving into it today. And Jake was an Olympian, won worlds 3 times, national wrestling champion, I believe 9 times. So a lot of great accomplishments and accolades in that sport. And recently I met Jake actually from Victorious MMA. We were at a what was it? Jiu-Jitsu in Frankenmuth, Michigan here. And I looked over and I was like watching him, and I said, he had a blue belt on, and I was like, that's a really good takedown. I was like, I wonder if that guy wrestles. It's like, yeah, you moron, just a little bit. So anyways, Jake, thanks so much for joining us.
Nice. Yeah, no, appreciate being here, Joe. Yeah, and excited to dive in this. And anytime that I can see anybody that connects in our world, that we have a lot of circles that overlap, and a lot of core values that hit home too. So like I said, I like to think of myself as an accelerator or an amplifier. And that's so more than happy to share my story, to dive in. And I hope that your audience listen here is ready to get, amplified from this. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's funny because I just want to go back to that my first, there's 2 interactions, because one time was when you were doing gi, but it was earlier in no gi. Chris Lush, who we both know, and he was my main coach, and I'm looking across and I'm like, Chris isn't getting up. And later he's like, yeah, that's Jake. Jake was, I forgot how heavy he was on the head and I couldn't get up. And I put 2 and 2 together finally, because he mentioned you before at VIX, but I didn't realize that's who it was. And so at any rate, I mean, I think that was pretty cool to see and get to meet you there and chat with all the guys. As you know, there's a bunch of just great guys there, but great competitors as well. So pretty cool to see.
That's great. And yeah, Chris is like my coach in the early morning. So I'm like, there I am. I entered my first competition in like 8 years, right outside of my first jiu-jitsu competition. And I'm like, oh, I get paired up with my coach first match. Thank God, like I don't have a lot of chances of like submitting him, but like I can out wrestle him there. So I was like, the rules kind of served me. That was all wrestling based. I just took him down, held him down, took his back, and I couldn't finish him, right? Like by all means, but I'm like, oh, that was great. I'm like, oh, first round, I get my coach. Like,
there's the guy that runs the jiu-jitsu, Jeff Alexander, is a good friend of mine, and he sent me a note, and I think he posted about it too. He's like, I had to do it. He's like, I had to shoot a double leg on Olympian. He's like, I had to just try. He's like, I got out at the very end. Finally, I think there was a couple seconds left. He got out. He's like, and time was up. But I believe, if I remember correctly, I think through all of his tournaments as a black belt, he's 25-1. I think you're the only one that he lost to in the last. Like,
he won the division. Like I said, I didn't get it the way that it worked, right? Like I beat him, but I was just like, man, like keep him off my legs, like not to get submitted. But I didn't get enough points to win the tournament, right? Of it. So yeah, that was fun to go against him too, man. Those guys it's just fun to go out there and compete. And It was actually really challenging for me from a mental standpoint to go and compete here, because I've competed in one jiu-jitsu tournament like 2016, like right after the Olympic trials. But before that, my last competition was the Olympics. So when I was getting ready to compete, I had to really compartmentalize and say, listen, I'm all like getting ready to me is if I'm going to go in, I'm burning the boats. I'm going all in. But like, again, I have 4 kids and a wife and work and all this stuff. So it's like I had to like do it within this time frame that like, hey, I'm only training twice in the morning. If I can get 2 other workouts in a week, that's it. And I have to be okay that that's the amount of preparation. Like I'm never going to be ready. I'm never going to be as ready as I want to be for it. So just go and compete. And what does it matter? You know? Yeah.
No, I think it's a great perspective, especially for some of the guys listening in. They're looking to do something, me included. Because we sponsor a lot of the jiu-jitsu events. So I've been at a lot of those and I'm headed, most likely headed to Worlds in June, but I'm always kind of similar where I'm like, I just want to have a little better ramp to it, but I just need to have fun to just rip the Band-Aid and do it. Because I know after I do it, I'll be competing. My 10-year-old daughter actually is going to compete this summer, and my 12-year-old she's more into like, as I would call it, play jujitsu, where she's like giggles jujitsu, where she'll laugh. And, you know, the new boy is on top of her and I can tell she can get out. And I'm like, why did you not get out? She's like, until the very end, she's like, well, it was his first class and I didn't want to be mean. So I just let you, I'm like, so that's like, that's like not, she's just like the sweetheart of the group. And then Bray, my 10-year-old, is like, Coach, can we do submissions today? And they're like, no, Bray, like we're just working on this. So I'm excited to see her get after it, but she's going to challenge me now to have to get out on the mats too. So
and that's what you're doing there is, I think when you get to like a certain level, you move beyond these things of like, I call it like this theory of like goal stacking, right? If I can get a workout in with the amount of time that, and everybody here is busy, right? Like this is the most busiest time of age, but it's like, if I can get a workout in, I'm like, that's great. If I can get a workout in and bring my kids along, even better. If I can get a workout in, bring my kids along and bring like another family member in. Now I've like goal stacked like 3 things. So it's like, I look for those little opportunities that it can be done, right? Like it's not enough just to go in outside on a run. I have to listen to an audiobook while I'm running, or I got to go run with a buddy and talk through it. So I'm like kind of like getting more out of that run.
Right.
Which is inversely against multitasking because like you can't multitask, but I can run with a friend and get that in. So bring your daughters along and having them see you compete and how you handle it. They watch a heck of a lot more. We'll pick that up from there than just then. So I think being able to do that as a family unit, I mean, that's so special, right? Because now you have built-in accountability partners and training partners, and you get to go through it together. And I think that's, at the end of the day, that's what we all want, especially with our family, right? Just to go in and have them see us and let them know like, hey, I'm not doing this perfectly. These are the results that I get. And, hopefully they see some of those bad moments, right? They want to see you completely get ripped off by the referee. And how do you want to handle it, right? Are you going to lose your mind and get kicked out forever? Or are you going to be like, that's life, right? Like it happens.
Right. No, it's a great point. I mean, it's been a lot of fun. They've been doing jiu-jitsu about a year. My wife started about 9 months ago. So we have a Friday night class where the kids they have like a competition class they do. And then we stay after. And as long as I'm not too sweaty, my 10-year-old will roll with me, but my 12-year-old, she's always game. So that, and believe it or not, being a bigger kind of meathead, as I'm just a little over a year into this, it's helped me a lot because I have to be so much more gentle and technique sound versus, kind of just plowing through stuff, which has been constantly what like Chris and other coaches I work with are working on unraveling, because it was always just push. But as like there's so much technique involved in that too. So
be water, not rock.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I wanted to kind of spend a little bit of time, before you just getting into kind of some of the crossover, but I think just building a foundation as we get there is, when you were, I just curious, like growing up, just kind of I grew up with a lot of guys, they didn't achieve your level, but they were young kids when they got into wrestling, and the family dynamic and just the culture and the mindset and kind of how I saw that accelerate. And not only the wrestling, but then later in life. And I'm just curious, like, what was it like? You grew up in Pittsburgh area, right?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. And what was that like kind of growing up and how did you reintroduce to wrestling and just kind of curious to that journey a little bit? I'm sure there's a lot of content out there about it, but just to kind of lay the groundwork a little.
Yeah. It's in my DNA. Right. And like my dad was a wrestler. So again, I come from a wrestling family. We had a big wrestling school where I was at. So, My dad's high school coach was Gus DiAgostino, was this kind of legend who he took my high school in the 1991 to like the #1 team in the nation in high school. And then it kind of like fizzled out. But then a couple of those guys were back behind that ended up being my coaches to like kind of keep this lineage going. So it was like everybody jokes that I was Gus's first Olympian. But my coach's brother was an Olympic alternate, was a national champion. So like I had these footsteps and I just kept wanting up in it. And that's what we want, right? I don't want to be the best wrestler in history for my school. I want to be one of the best wrestlers, but I want others to come up and go through that. So it was there. Like my whole family wrestled. We're in Pittsburgh. It's what we do. It's PA wrestling is there, especially that Whitfield area. We've had some really, really tough wrestling. And it's that family dynamic, right? It's the same thing. My kids haven't been, I'm in Michigan now. So my kids haven't been exposed. They haven't been on ice skates. So if you ask if my kid's going to be a hockey player, probably not. Right. He could be a great hockey player. And by all means, right, he probably should be or make a heck of a lot more money. But I've had him on a wrestling mat or a jiu-jitsu mat 150 times already. So that's what I'm ingraining because like you, I like the values that wrestling and grappling, right? Rather it's wrestling, jiu-jitsu, martial arts, what it gives, right? Because I think right now, this youth, this generation needs that. We need to know that you can physically still get hurt and I can physically still hurt somebody if need be, even though we've evolved as humans beyond that, right? I'm undefeated in fighting and I've never been in a fight, but I'm grossly overprepared, right? For my first fight.
Right.
Yeah. So, but like, again, at 40 years old, it's not like I'm going out and getting in fights. Like if I made it through my 20s, I'm there, but it teaches you that, that confidence of how to handle yourself. I know very well that if I got into a physical altercation, I'm going to be okay. Right. I know where that's at. And I want my kids to have that confidence too, there. So that's what I love. And it's the discipline, the hard work, because life's really easy now, right? It's not that hard to live a mediocre life, right? To kind of get there and just check the boxes and do it. So you got to have those challenges. And then the people you meet along the way, that's like the last aspect of it too. Like it's unbelievable how we meet, how this community comes together and supports. I mean, like I said, the wrestling world is so small, the jiu-jitsu world is so small, and it's just a great area of people, iron sharpening iron, right?
Yeah. No, I appreciate that because I originally got into jiu-jitsu because I did strength sports all my life, and I knew, like, I'm going to struggle at this. Like, I knew it's going to be tough, and it's actually, I don't want to get too far off on a tangent, but it's actually part of how I met my wife is I did the same approach in swimming, and that worked out pretty well. So I'm like, I got into swimming and I purposely just to challenge myself because I'm so terrible at it. You can't really muscle your way through the water. And it was similar in jiu-jitsu. We both know Vic. I've been yelled at many, many times for muscling something the wrong way. But you're so right. It's a great experience. And I will say, just kind of a little side note on that with kids development and what I'm witnessing, I'll never forget because I did a lot of team sports. I was a little nervous in track. I did shot and discus, but our wrestling school was not quite nowhere near like the level what you described, what you experienced. But we were top 8 in the state, like 10 out of 12 years or something like that. So they're always going to state finals. And our football team was really bad. So I grew up playing football. Anyways, I'll never forget the first time the match came down to me. I've only wrestled 2 years in high school, and I was freaking out because I'm like, usually I have a helmet on. I can get a cheap shot in, or like I can just not everyone's on me. And I just remember that, like, not knowing how to respond and like everyone cheering us on and everyone being like so engaged to that one person on the mat. And I will say that those experiences kind of helped me realize how ill prepared I was for that when I got into like public speaking, or I've done some work as a chaplain where I've been able to, close family members, like help them help deliver part of the sermon, if you will, or the eulogy and those things. And that's speaking versus athletic performance. But I'm so glad that like my kids are doing it now because they're so much more comfortable. And again, they're still 10 and 12 in like that experience. But I'm curious to like having that, out front and center. And then in your case with so much more exposure and eyes on you, have you seen that kind of translate for you? And then are you also seeing that in your kids as far as translating other areas of life as far as your confidence goes?
Yeah, it's a great question because that's a really big, you see this a lot with like people that excel in like one field, right? Can it transition? to other aspects. And some people it does, and some people it doesn't. Right. And that was it was a really, really tough transition for me because so much of my identity was a wrestler. Right. When I left that behind in 2016, it was hard. It was really challenging, right? To struggle. Who am I now? These guys I was training with forever, they're still friends, they're still there, but you kind of get like alone, right? And you got to like almost like go out and find that new tribe. I'm very blessed where I'm super extroverted. I'm super curious. I love learning. I'm not afraid to fail.
Yeah.
So even though I did struggle a lot, right, with that loneliness, with where's my new tribe, how do I get to other people on this level, but the same thing that everybody struggles with, you kind of work to get through it, right? And time takes time. You can't rush through any of that process. But so I can only speak from my experience on how I handle it and where I am. I mean, if you're wired differently, it's just because I've seen just as many people that have been important to me. Like once they lose or finish something, they end up, instead of going into the sports room, they go to the bar.
Right.
And then they end up at the bottom of a bottle and nothing great happens, right? Or even for a period. So you need that purpose. And that's where like faith has really, really helped me. So I got to give a lot of love to God and to Jesus. And that's something that, again, I just discovered probably about 3 years ago. Really kind of new into my faith, but that helps a lot. And then just the community that it brings together to come with it. It's just really blessed to have known and see that. And just kind of like have those core attributes, right? I have this group of men called The Dad Edge, right? Larry Hager has a podcast called The Dad Edge, and it's a podcast on fathering. And when I found out I was going to be a father, there's no manual on it. I just went out there, 2014, Googled how to be a good dad, found the Good Dad Project. He was on like 20 episodes. Now he's on like 1,000 episodes, all these downloads, this big thing. But there was I looked at it, and this is what I recognize about me is I'm not self-motivated. I am self-motivated, but I'm not self-motivated, right? If you put me in a room and say, here's a task, you got to clean up and organize this room, I'll probably sit there and not do it that well. But if you go, hey, here's a room you need to clean up and organize, the same room is across the street and this guy is going to organize it and he's going to organize it faster than you, boom, competition. Or you throw me in a room and somebody's just cleaning up. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Because the worst thing for me is sitting there doing nothing. Like I want to be doing something and I'm going to help somebody else or just sit there. I want to be helpful. That's in my core value and my natures. So knowing and recognizing yourself is a really big key thing about that. And there's this quote, environment trumps willpower every time eventually, right? I have a crap ton of willpower and you offer me chocolate or dessert or sugar anytime before 4 p.m. No, get out of here. I don't need that. Absolutely not. No, it's poison. It's there. You get me at like 9 o'clock at night, after like a glass of wine or something on a Friday, my willpower is done, right? Like environment trumps willpower every time. So I'm very intentional about who I surround myself with and the environments I'm going to put myself into.
Yeah. I'm curious to that too. Like, what about, so for so much to unpack there, I think I want to start first, if you wouldn't mind, you've been out of wrestling just about 10 years, it sounds like, from the Olympic stage, excuse me. What are things maybe for guys, maybe they're going through like something, maybe not as, hard cut to something else, but maybe it's a career change right now or something like that. What are some things you did? Maybe there's some tools, support you looked for. How did you approach that? Because as guys, we just want to do everything by ourselves alone. So, how did you transition out of that? I can only imagine the difficulties that could be with that. I went through like a job change, and it was, by my own choice, and that was mentally a little bit of a struggle. But I was very fortunate. But I'm just curious for you that that's just a big part of your life. Like, how did you manage through that?
Yeah, I'm sure I'm still dealing with it, if that makes sense, right? Like when you transition from something that's so big and committed, I mean, always hindsight is, we have this like rose-colored lens that we look in the past through, like the good old days.
Right.
And they were great, right? Like I loved everything I had to do and what I got to do with the Olympics and training and all that. It always looks better. And what I do is I just try to like look and take lessons like from that. And so the tool specifically, the things that really helped was talking to people about it, having a good group of people. So again, what's tough is everybody has an inner circle, right? And if you don't get out there, right, you're not getting an inner circle sitting behind a keyboard, staying in. Go join a jiu-jitsu class. Go join a gym. Go find there's connection is out there everywhere. And if that's hard for you to do, even more of a reason to lean in and reach out and have conversations about that, right? I've had so many conversations, and I continue to have these conversations with other people about what's next, how to transition. So the number one thing is like, yeah, don't go at it alone. People are accessible. If you shoot me an email, right, jake.herbert1@gmail.com, I'll get back to you, like, or I'll point a resource or a question. But like everybody that heard that, like nobody will really email. And I love it too, because I had one guy like do it from like one of the other podcasts is that about challenge them to like do a business plan, and he like sent this thing over, and then I asked him about it. He goes, "Wow, I didn't think you'd get back to me right away," but now we have a conversation, right?
Yeah.
So don't be afraid, I think, to reach out and talk to people about that, right? Because there's no really like tool except for you have to work through it, and then you got to decide. So I'd say another trick to do is put a timeline on your decision. I will know by then, and then go, because I know as people we get caught up into this like getting ready to get ready, and then we get ready, and then you're ready, and then you aim, and then you fire one shot. But the world we live in today, and this is me, I'm fire, aim. So I'm going to get 50 shots off before you spend that time prepping and everything to get like one shot off in 6 months, right? That's the world we live in. I mean, it's speed. You got to take action. And the only way to really know things is to go and try things, and you're going to mess up, and you're going to fail, and things aren't going to go well. But you know, when you Dr. Robert Gilbert has this awesome thing on Success Hotline that only losers believe in losing. It's only winning or learning. And when you adapt that mindset that either I succeed or I learn how I don't succeed, which means I'm going to go again and learn how to not succeed. And then you take that, you combine that with the speed and get that in, eventually you're going to be where you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's so true. I think it's you just kind of build a callus to this fake feeling of failure where you think, you know, everyone was looking at me or whatever. Like I just, I failed, and everyone knows, like, no, you're not that important. No one cares. Just get back on and keep working through it. Like, don't let that hold you back from trying those things. You're mentioning kind of that transition and just some things you're doing now. So obviously you're still pretty involved in grappling. Got the 4 kiddos. So from professionally speaking, what are some things you transitioned into, and how are those? How do you kind of take some of that same competitive mindset to those?
Well, it just is because I've adapted as like who I am, right? The things that made me a wrestler are my core belief. Mm-hmm. I know that's really, really important, is discovering and figuring out your core beliefs. Or if that's too hard for you, because we were trying to figure that out for our family, we just took what we definitely would not accept and then inverse them, right? So like, we do not want to raise entitled or lazy kids. Yep. So we want to raise hardworking, appreciative kids. So that was like way easier to figure out than like all these other lists of like positive like attributes. And what it is. So that's one trick that you can really do with that, is figure out what you want by figuring out what you don't want, and identifying those core values. And now, since I have this core values in here, I kind of have like a filter for everything else. But my transition was crazy. I mean, I retired at like 31, right, from Olympic wrestling, and was like, now what, right? And it was great. I had no debts. I had some cash in the bank, not enough to like be retired or financially set for life. And I was like, I don't know what it's like, what do I do now? And I'm like, all right, I look from an Olympic wrestling standpoint. Do you go into MMA, or do you go to WWE, or are you going to go coach wrestling, right? You're going to be a wrestling coach. Like, those are the 3 main options. And I was like, well, no to WWE, because I know how much they're traveling and what they get hurt and what they do, and there's only a chance of making. And I was like, no to UFC. I've had enough surgeries. I've worked really hard. I want to finish and kind of go into the business world. And I don't want to be a college coach. I like all the aspects of it, but I just didn't. I've seen what that takes to get to that level. And I wanted to have a family. So I wanted to be like, I want a family. I want my wife. I want kids. And I want to have a business that I can revolve around and be around my family. I want to control my own time. So that's kind of led me to eliminate those 3 options. But then it was like, well, now what? right? And being an Olympic wrestler is like, well, I can do anything, which now I'm like looking at this choice of like, well, shit, what do I do?
Right.
And I eventually just decided to run at real estate first. It was like, let me get a couple rental houses. Let me get real estate in here. Let me run as deep as I can. And, learn that way, like bought some houses in Detroit, right? Fixed them up, learned everything I needed to about, made every mistake possible with when it came to buying and putting people in, evicting people and this and that. And kind of just continued to go with it and was able to like work ourselves up to like a really good real estate position. And then that got me into like coaching real estate agents and then coaching realtors. And I have my real estate license, so I still help, people buy and sell homes. If I know them here in Metro Detroit, Michigan, I still have investments that I'm looking for myself. But that led me from coaching realtors to joining the Dad Edge coaching group, right? And the reason why I joined it as a member was I wanted that tribe of guys. I wanted that support group of people around me. I wanted to be around people who were doing bigger things than me. So it was like scary to jump in and to pay that fee and to be around these guys where I'm like, I don't think I belong. These guys are creating huge businesses. They're crushing it in this aspect and that aspect. And just being around those guys, I got to learn from them, right? When you're in the room with 5 millionaires, you're going to become the fifth, the sixth millionaire. If you're in a room with 5 criminals, you're going to become the sixth criminal. So pick your room.
Right.
And that led me to then, after being a part of that group, them inviting me over to help coach and run it. So it's just kind of a journey. You don't do anything by staying still. You got to go out there and just have that resilience, right? Like I know I'm going to continue to move and help people and serve and just look for opportunities for the rest of my life. But I want to make sure I'm doing it on my terms.
Yeah.
Is where I'm at.
No, I appreciate that. And when you were talking, I thought about, because is your oldest 11?
Yeah, my oldest daughter is 11. Oldest son is 6, and then 5 is my other daughter, and then 2 is my youngest son.
Okay, and then so your wife, how old were you when you guys got married?
So I was 31 when I retired and got married. So my daughter's from a previous relationship. So my wife and I have 3 kids, and gotcha. my daughter's from a previous relationship, just an ex-girlfriend.
Okay, and then because I was curious about with your wife and that transition, what was her role in you making that decision and leaving the sport? How was that?
She was super supportive with it, right? We were looking in like Farmington Hills and everything. And when I met my wife, right, she just, she had this, she's 24, right? She had a idea. She runs the Bar 3 fitness studios here in Metro Detroit. Oh, so, cool. And she's an entrepreneur, badass herself, right? And when I first met her, she literally was living in her parents' like basement and was like signed this thing to like start her first, fitness studio.
Nice.
Here in Birmingham. So then she slowly after got a condo and was doing that. And she's like, well, do you want to live in, like, she was really open to help and support. We had no idea where it was going to go, but here she is 11 years later, 4 studios, 4 studios of Bar 3. They've been through 2 acquisitions where they got bought and sold because it's a franchise that she owns, but she loves what she does. There's problems with it, but she's an entrepreneur, right? Like anything. Yeah. She keeps going. So we didn't know it was going to grow into what it's grown into. But it's still great. She loves what she does. We're both active people. We're not like, I think people have this idea of like retirement of like, I'm going to sit around and do nothing. Like,
right.
It drives me crazy. Like it's not, you're not going to sit around and do nothing. It's, you want to have financial control to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want.
Right.
You can only do that if you have the financial tool to do it, or you need to be able to live completely off the grid and be able to make your own food and water and everything else, which both are very possible. Just pick your one. If you're going to live in the society that we're going to live in, you need money. It's a tool.
Yeah.
So that was something that we're very like conscious of. And what's kind of crazy and what's ironic is we've gotten to that point financially that we can do what we want, when we want, where we want. Like I can't buy a sports team, but when you get to a place of Maslow's hierarchy of need where food, shelter, and your basic needs are covered, it's right. Like, well, what do I really want to do with my time? How do I want to spend it? Who do I want to spend it with? And what do I want to do? So to wrap up that like retirement thing, like we'll never retire. I'm always going to be doing all these things that I want to do and helping people. I just want to make sure they can tend to come back and align with our core values.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's interesting too. I'm curious to, let's say there's that guy out there and he's listening. Maybe won't admit it. Maybe he's got a little bit of that victim mentality where he's kind of like, well, I don't have that great group of friends. I grew up lower income. I didn't accomplish anything in sports, right? So I don't have this history to look back on and say, look, I did these before. I'm going to go do them again. Just thinking about when you're coaching people, like how would you kind of start to maybe unpack that, or what are maybe some advice to get that guy to kind of slowly start taking those steps in the right direction? What would that look like?
Yeah, it's programming. I mean, it comes down to brainwashing and programming.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your brain is a computer, right? You have hardware that's in there and you have software, and it can all be replaced. Hardware is a lot harder to replace than software, sure. But you want to start with the software, right? And just a couple exercises that I do, right? Gratitude, having a gratitude journal and leaning into gratitude, calling the success hotline is another one, because life's going to happen to all of us, and we can either move towards this path of victimhood or move up this path of accountability. And I'm gonna read this. This is something I kind of wrote out, because when life happens to us all, it's gonna happen. But a victim, right? Step one, they avoid reality. They don't ask questions about it. They're not curious. Then they start to fight reality. They say, that's not how it is. That's not how I see it. Then they go with the blame. Hey, if everybody would just do their job, blah, 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 whatever it's going to be. And then they come up with the personal excuses that it's not my job. It's not this. And then it goes down to like waits and they hope, right? If it's meant to be, it'll happen. They don't take action. They don't do anything. That's victim. Life's going to happen to all of us. And that's kind of the stages you can go down and through, which is normal, right? And it's not that I'm not a victim ever. I don't want to ever say I perfected this. It's just,
sure,
I choose to go the other way, and I have pattern interruptions and thoughts that an environment created. I have coaches and people in place that don't do this, right? Where somebody that is accountable, like life happens.
Right.
When this happens, it's like you start to get curious. What's happening? Why is this happening? How did it happen? And acknowledge this is the way it is, right? And then what's really tough is you got to take ownership of it.
Right.
You got to figure that out, right? And then you're going to start looking for a solution, and then just get on with it.
Yep.
And that's really the big framework that I work and take people through, and it needs a lot of reminders. I'm not somebody that I can say something once and get it. I need to imprint it into me. I need to write it down. I need to feel it. I need to hear it. I need to put it on Post-it notes that I have sitting here so that I see it constantly over and over and over again. Yeah,
no, it's oh geez, what is it? What is the name of it? There's Gordon. What is this? I'm drawing blank his name, but anyways, there's the Energy Bus is a book, and then there's the other one is the No Complaining Rule. That came to mind when you were saying that, and it talked about even at work catching your words of saying I have to versus I get to.
Yes.
And just like it sounds so woo, but I'm big on that with my kids too. Like, well, one sister or the other made me do this. Like, no, like personal accountability, reaction. Like you are able to react, and responsibility. Like you are, you're in control of your response. So I think those little things are important, and people don't think. I know from experience, right? They don't think it really works. And then you just kind of start doing it, like just fake it. Just fake it for a while. Give it a couple weeks. And even like you mentioned, journaling, I can feel a difference myself when I do the 5-minute journal. It's really easy practice. And I say I do it because when I miss it, I can tell when I miss it. But it just, like you said, just that kind of that programming and wiring, because I think that's so empowering for people out there to hear that message, and that there's people like yourself that do coaching and coaching services, and there's podcasts, and there's all these tools out there to where it's like, hey, just take that step, right, and go through it.
Yeah, and exactly. And if what is it? If information was everything, we'd all be billionaires with 6-packs.
Right.
All the information in the world, everybody, if you're listening to this podcast, you have access to all the information in the entire world, the history of how to do anything. It's taking the steps and setting your environment up to do that, right? There's a reason why I have, this is like the biggest shift, is rather than hanging out with my friends, rather than hanging out with them at night, finding the group of friends that I'll hang out with early in the morning. So rather than, hey, going and getting a scotch and a cigar, which don't get me wrong, I love being able to go get a scotch and cigar, right? Probably only do it like once a quarter now. But rather than doing that, every Friday night, and now all of a sudden you've had 52 scotches and cigars, like where's that going to get me in my life versus I still have to have that time. I got to go out there and have that release because when I don't, I'm actually worse off. So I have to I remember that.
Right.
My friends at the AM, it's like, hey, 6 a.m. Do you want to come over and hit the sauna? Let's go on a run. Let's meet me at the gym. Let's do this because if I just put it on me to get up and do it myself, it's probably not going to happen. I'm going to find every excuse to sleep in and do this, but you have that friend that you're going to meet at this gym or this one thing or some sort of accountability, and you maybe have to pay to start doing that, right? You're going to have to join a gym. It's going to cost something.
Right.
You get nothing for anything, but pay to join the gym. And now all of a sudden, if you're paying that $150 to join Victorious MMA, guess what? Every Tuesday and Wednesday morning, I'm there. It's actually the next 3 Tuesdays, whenever this is out. But no, I'm there in the morning, and I know there's a group of guys there, and I know when I show up, they're going to try to strangle me. So I'm going to get around it. Like there's no getting around it, right? Like I'm going to get it in or I don't. Or, yeah. So, or I have friends. I have like 6 or 8 guys that I like to see. So, hey, what are you doing Friday morning? I haven't seen you in a while, man. Let's go on a run. Come on over. Let's hit our sauna up. Let's go to meet at the gym. Let's do this stuff. I think that's me as an extrovert. If you're introverted, you probably got to do it even more. I don't know. But that's a hard one to deal with. I don't know what it's like to be introverted.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting because it's you mentioned the people you surround yourself with, and I want to ask a question a little bit about that in a minute, but just to comment on what you're saying there too, I do think having those friends, I have some friends that are super nice, and I have other friends that can talk some serious trash, and I'll tell them listen, if I don't show up, that's my next step actually, because I'm working on changing my sleep schedule, and so I'm trying to get in and train earlier. Trying is already a defeated mindset when me saying it that way, so I acknowledge that.
When I hear the word try, my coaching flags come up.
Yep. So because I missed it this morning, so I'm telling on myself right now. So I got a couple of buddies that I'm texting today to be like, dude, just call me every name in the book over text to get my butt up there.
Yeah. And there's again, hey, I have a 2-year-old who's now climbing out of bed in the crib and sleep training. So dude, if I was up for 5.5 hours on the night with a 2-year-old and I don't get any sleep, all right, understandable, right? That's a circumstance. It's not there. It's not what I want. But if you're up because you're scrolling on your phone or watching YouTube videos or whatever it is, that's probably the hardest thing that I've recognized is the best use of my time after my kids go to bed is if I'm not hanging out with my wife and spending quality time with her, it's to be in bed.
Right.
I should be reading a book. I should only be reading a book, right? After all my alarms are set for the next day, read a book or hang out with my wife or go to sleep.
Yeah.
That's it. Everything else, you can say what you want to do. And again, this is somebody who I was a 20-year-old that I would do my best work from 11 o'clock till 2 a.m. But I got to sleep in. That's not the way my life is set up now with 4 kids.
Right.
But I love, have you tried the accountability check yet?
No, I haven't.
So something like that, Joe, your goal that you have there and your goal matters. It's a show up goal. That I like based on a results goal, right? If you're like, hey, I got to win the Chewbacca Invitational. Well, that's tough because then all of a sudden you're a blue belt, you show up and there's this Olympian with his blue belt on and gi. Well, that sucks for you, right?
Well, I will say, I am a JV wrestling champion, so I might give you a run, Jake. I don't know.
But that's hard to control. I can't control. I want to hit 4 home runs, but I can control. I never want to miss a batting practice.
Right.
So one thing that I have control of is first of all, I take the control out of it, right? Where I write, hey, Joe, I'm going to make it 4 times this week to the early morning class. And I'm committed, meaning come hell or high water, I have 7 days. I'm going to hit 4 of them early in the morning. And you write out a check, right? And you give it to your friend, and it's got to be for something you don't like, right? Like to the Kardashian fund or, the participation trophy fund. And you mail it to your friend and you say, hey, I'm committed to doing this. Hold on to this. It's made out to them. If I don't follow through with this, send it out. Nice. And it's got to be enough to sting, right? Maybe for some people that's $100. Other people it's like $3,000. But it is a surefire thing that works 100% of the time once you committed and you've written that. And if it doesn't work, I guarantee you're going to get closer than you ever would. And then you have your coach there that you can now have to be like, listen, I made 3 out of the 4, but I attempted to the 1 and the gym wasn't open or I got a flat tire. And then they can tell you, is that really bullshit or is that an actual excuse? Right. Is that legit?
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna give that a run. So
I'll give you my address whenever you want to send it out, Joe. You let me know, man. It's so scary. It is so scary, but it is so effective.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, when I was in strength sports, like, the one thing was, like, knowing, especially if it was like a physique type competition, knowing I'm going to stand in front of everybody wearing next to nothing in this huge auditorium, whatever. I was like, I wouldn't cheat for 20 weeks. I wouldn't miss a session or anything. So it's the accountability of the, the money one's a great one too. I didn't think of that. That's a good one for sure. Cause I got some, not only talking trash, but if I give someone a check and say, hey, that's going to sting. So
it is, man.
I'm gonna take note up.
Yeah, it's a great one, right? And it's scary. It should scare you, right? If it doesn't put a little bit of like fear and like a little pucker into that booty,
yep.
Like that's it. Because it is that accountability. And I think that's why I knew that wrestling was so important to me, because I've done the work, right? Like that's what's so, like, you can't hide out there on the wrestling mat. And what I loved about it, what I didn't like about the team sports is I would get annoyed because I'd play a heck of a game and have 30 tackles in football and do all this. And then we'd still end up losing because our offensive line did this or whatever. Like I didn't like the depending on the other people as much, but the wrestling, you can't hide out there. It's you versus you. You're out there. You did the work or you didn't. And, one of my favorite sayings is you shouldn't cry over the results you didn't get for the work you didn't do.
Right. Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah. I'm curious for guys out there, when they're trying to put together that group, right? Like that group of men or people are going to kind of lift them up. How do you balance, if you have a friend or two, and I'll give a little context before I finish, but that friend or two that you're trying to also bring along with you or lift up versus I got my 6 or my 5 or whatever it is. Like, how do you balance, that person that could drag you down, but you're trying to pull them up? And this is something we talk to our girls about, is like, we try to talk about standards in our household. Like, we love so-and-so, we love your friend. They're an amazing, beautiful human being. They just have lower standards than we do for you, like their parents do. They're good people. They just have lower standards of what they expect. So we got to make sure we have friends that have similar or higher standards than you, and just trying to like communicate that, because I don't want it to be negative, towards them as a human, but it's just like, I know they're going to get kind of pulled down. So I'm just curious, either with kids or even more applicable maybe for adults, like, how do you kind of balance that dynamic?
I don't have it figured out completely. I mean, but I think having a deeper awareness and understanding of it is going to be your first step, right? Standards, expectations, and boundaries, right? Yeah. Understanding what those are. Because everybody here that's listening to this, you get to choose your life.
Right.
And if you don't believe that, you're already in the victim mentality, right? Like it's unbelievable, especially with the access. I mean, there's 22-year-olds out there making millions of dollars off of YouTube. If you have a phone, you have this, like, you can go do it. You just got to figure out how and just give it enough attempts. Right. And if you have the mentality that there is no failure, it's either you keep going until you make it, or there is no failure. You just keep going, you make it. Once you have that mindset, you're going to be unstoppable. So that's the first part, is really undiscovering how do I change that mindset in there. Now getting that to be applicable to do it, especially to like somebody you love, that's so hard, because you got to use the carrot and the stick mentality, right? You got to get that carrot out there that's just far enough out of reach that they want to keep going to it, and put a little bit of stick behind them too. And that accountability check, that sting, whatever that's going to be, you got to have that out there. Right. And it's not going to happen. It's not just like you take a pill and you got it. It's continual. It's setting that example. It's leading by example. It's leading through that. And I like to remind myself of the plus equal minus theory, right? When I'm getting ready for the Olympics or jiu-jitsu events or anything, I need 3 training partners. I need a plus, right? I need somebody that's better than me, that can beat the crap out of me, that submits me, that I strive to be better than, right? I strive to be one day. I need the equals. I need somebody that's like, hey, if I don't show up guns a-blazing all in, and they're going to get better than me. And some days I'm better than them, other days are better than me. Somebody that's going to push me at that level. And then I need a minus. I need somebody that I can go and figure out this new triangle, work this white belt like takedown on, like and go and show them and bring them up along, so that they get that equal level. And what's crazy about this is if you relate it to just one thing, like jiu-jitsu, I can take, some guy that's a plus in jiu-jitsu might be a minus to me when it comes to financial, security or like job thing or whatever. But what's great about it is when you have like a small core group of people and you can rotate and understand who's my plus, who's my equal, who's my minus, and just kind of have that your front of mind and thinking and looking of it. That's super powerful.
That's a great point. I've experienced a little bit of that, and even I love that like plus equals minus, because I think that's so true. And then also for the guys out there listening, like remember that you have some value for somebody. So even if they are that plus, I'm sure, as you just mentioned, there's an area in their life that they may be a minus that maybe you can indirectly support them with or directly support them with, which is a super great way to look at it, because I definitely appreciate that. And that's something like even myself, I mean, well, actually, I don't want to move past that just yet. So I am curious, if I probably don't know him, but who is your plus for jiu-jitsu?
Oh my God, so many. So there's so many. So right now, Vic, right? Vic destroys me anytime I'm on the mat with him. And then we have, I think they call him Stuba Steve, but Black Belt Steve.
Okay.
There's right. Tim Washburn is close there. I want to give him credit. Like, he is a plus a lot on the coaching aspect, but he's 155 pounds. I'm sure. So it's like,
right.
But so he's more of like a plus equals, like in the other regards. And then Shea Butler, who's the wrestling coach of Berkeley High School, makes me feel like a little baby. Like, he destroys me. Like, I'm like, I don't even know what to do in a gi against him. And then you got the assembly crew too, in the Detroit area. Garmo's freaking really good. But again, we're all working to get everybody better, especially when it's in jiu-jitsu. And I really focus more on my equals. Like, that's the ones I really like Justin Yates, who runs the morning class, is a great equals. And we have a bunch of guys that go through there. That's a great crew of just dudes, man, of guys that I can get in there and work out with, that I like them a lot. I wish I saw more of them. So
no, it's funny. I was having flashbacks. I was training somewhere else for a while. I popped into Vic's, and he's like, so the 5th 5-minute round, he's like, Joe, get your butt over here. And of course, I act like I didn't hear him just to mess with him. And man, I have never muscled something so hard for 5 minutes, and like 4 different,
right. And you're like so much effort nowhere.
I literally took my mouthpiece out, and I'm just hyperventilating. He's like, that mouthpiece is supposed to protect your teeth. Get it back in. And he's just talking crap. He goes, well, you can't be taking your mouthpiece out if you're going to say you're good. And I look up at him as he's on me. I'm like, I never said I'm good.
Vic just know. I mean, he's lived it. He knows it so well, man. And he's a rock, dude. He's a rock. But he's also like, that's just one of the guys that, like, you look at him and like, you'd be like, that's somebody you can tell, like, if he just was wearing a baggy sweatshirt and sitting around, the short little, like Mexican guy, you're like, oh, I'm going to go in and push that dude around. And then you go to push him, he doesn't move. You're like, oh shit, that is a solid. And you don't just get that way. Like, he's been hardened that way because of the life that he has lived, and he's lived it and breathed it and done it, man. And and there's difference, right? Like, can I beat Vic in a wrestling match? Absolutely, right? Could I maybe squeak, like, use my grappling and wrestling to possibly squeak like a win in like 4 minutes if there was no submissions and the rules were all set in my favor? Like, maybe a 1 out of 10 chance. But in a fight, there's levels of this. Like, I've been in the ring with like John Jones. Like, I know that, but I know, like, one-on-one in a cage with Vic, I'm probably not going to leave that cage. Like, if anything, I'm going to be like, I know that my only chance is like, can I get him tired enough where he can't kill me? Or can I avoid him enough to like rope-a-dope him to like make it an hour and a half, and then maybe I can escape that cage. But like, dude, it's going to take everything in, because he's wired that way, man. And I'm like, thank God that guy's on my side. Like, I want that dude in my corner. And that's what I love about Vic, is like, you have a little bit of that like fear of like getting yelled at, like, but like, dude, he's gonna show up for you. It's family at Victoria is what I love about it, man. I love that about Vic.
No, he's like my plus because Chris is my plus. But because I was like, in my head, he goes, hey, he was like, you did pretty good. I'm like, I like tapped because I was hyperventilating, dude. Like, but he's like, all you gotta do is like, you just gotta move your hips more. I'm like, oh, that's all you have to do. Just move my hips more. Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks, man. He's being nice, of course. But then he texts me the next morning. He's like, hey man, how you feeling today? I'm like, feeling great, thanks. I'm like, 10 years. In 10 years, I'll catch up to you. Probably not, but still, I got my goals.
Yeah.
That's why I would joke with Chris all the time, or I would text Chris and Vic and be like, hey, this other gym, there's not as many high belts. I haven't been choked in a while. You guys there tomorrow? I just lead with it. I'm like, let's just get it out.
100%, right? But you need that, right? And I think that's awesome to have that. I mean, I do this on every role because I go in there and I know I have a target on my back. Everyone's like, oh, Olympic athlete, but like I'm 40 years old. Right. Like my number one goal in jiu-jitsu and that training was, did I want to win the tournament? Heck yeah, I wanted to win. But my number one goal, I kept telling everybody, is my main goal is winning to me is, can I go in, I compete Saturday, can I show up to class and compete on Tuesday? I'm not willing to win, to snap my elbow, to break my neck. I will tap so fast in training because I'm not looking to be an Olympic champion in jiu-jitsu. Right. That's not the goal. I don't want that. I'm doing it for a different reason than these competitive ones. And I'll go that. I'll tell people, hey, I'll match your level you go, but I got to be warned about that. And if it starts to get there, like I'm going to give it up. Like I know what it's like to come back to pop out a shoulder and knee. And then I don't want to deal with not being able to train. So it's a weird shift as you get older and you make it to like a certain level that I don't want to. I'm willing to take 80% and be okay to go again the next day and have that consistency versus that fifth round, when that voice in your head goes, I'm tired, you should stop. My whole life, it's like, that's when you do one more. That's Ed Millett, right? That's when I do that power one more. Now I hear that fifth round and I start getting there. Well, that's when I go in and I tweak my shoulder, I tweak my knee, I tweak my elbow. So now it's like, I hear that, shut it down and stretch. And that 7 minutes of stretching or 8 minutes of stretching I'll get so much more benefit in the long run than doing that one more hard run, just to the phase that I'm at in my life. I didn't do that while getting ready for the Olympics. You're not going to make an Olympic team, shutting it down when it starts to get hard. But I'm at a different phase in my life. So I would coach somebody differently there, depending on where their phase is and what their goal is and what they really want. Because if you really want it, you got to be ready to run through hell, man.
Well, I think it's so true, because even the guys that are listening to this and or ladies, if they're still tuned in with all the grappling talk for some that aren't into it, but I noticed it because I've been invited to a couple places just from some of the clients I have that are more prominent jiu-jitsu athletes. Like, yeah, come down and train with us, fly out and train with us. And I'm like, kind of, pretty intimidated. So anyways, I was talking to a couple of the coaches I know, they're black belts, and I'm like, hey, I need to learn how to roll with higher belts better. Like just good etiquette, all that stuff. And short of the long, that's one of the things they told me is like, yeah, you're overthinking it too much. Cause like, now you're comfortable with like white and blue belts and you're pretty chill. He's like, but then you start getting to the higher ones. He's like, you kind of, your mind is, you're okay. Like it's freeing to just, I don't care, because they're supposed to be better than me. He's like, but your body's telling me something else. Like it was interesting to hear people, a couple guys who are helping me, like tell me that they can feel like that overly tense or overly overthinking. And I think it translates in everything. And I think it is that, like that self-consciousness or fear of failure, if you will. And just like that you can apply that in multiple things is kind of, as you were talking, what I was thinking about is like, wow, like I'm as much as I'm talking about applying it in other areas, not doing that. Like I was just doing that just last week. I had a private with a guy and he just pointed that out to me.
Yeah. And it's the same thing. I mean, I know I coach people on a lot of this stuff too. And I make the same mistakes. A lot of times I'm like, I feel like when I'm coaching them, I'm like, hey, listen, I'm not just talking to you. I'm talking to me too. Right. It's nobody has it all figured out. And if they do, like, good for them. They're probably lying about something.
Right.
We're all imperfect. We're all human beings, right? That's what makes it like fun. And I think it's a lot easier to connect with somebody on that. And where we struggle and do it, right? And as like the best way, hey, you want to get better at rolling with higher belts? Like the only way to do it is roll with higher belts, right? You gotta like, and that's where like I like being the Olympic wrestling in the jiu-jitsu room, because it's grappling, right? It translates over so well, right? That I can go in and again, right? I know we joke that I was competing in the gi and the blue belt. I'm now a purple belt in the gi,
right?
But when I did the no gi, I was in there with the expert in the advance.
Right.
Even though it's like, I couldn't walk you through how to like put a triangle on somebody and maybe finish it and actually do it. Like I didn't submit any of those people in the expert. I used my wrestling. I took them down. I got their back. I tried to work to like my arm bar. I tried to work to like my straight arm lock. And that was like it. Like I don't have too much more. I just know what not to do as well. So like they don't get on top of me or they don't choke me. But I got buggy choked, right? Like I didn't know it. I took the guy like, I was like, this is really easy to take. Then all of a sudden I'm like, holy crap, what's he doing?
What's going on?
And I got there, I got done. I was like, what the heck was that? And I go online and everyone's like, oh, that's a buggy choke. And I'm like, didn't even know that existed. Right? Like, and I got really good at it, right? Like,
that's something when it happens. But well, I know we got a little bit of a late start with the audio, so I wanted to wrap with a couple more general questions, just wrestling related. So I'm curious, kind of a two-part question. The first is Gable Stevenson, Wyatt Hendrickson. I watched it, and I'm just curious to what your initial thoughts were and takeaway from that match.
Well, I think this is just from being at the level that I'm at. But when I was watching Gable in the quarterfinals, you could start to see it. I think the guy in the quarterfinals, like he went to sit out, and the guy like pulled him back to his back, and like for like a half a second, he was on his back. He got up, but the crowd was like, "Woo!" Because you've never seen him even get like that. You never see him get in a little bit of trouble, which it is. But then he wrestled a tighter match. The next one in the semis, he kind of wrestled a tighter match, and he's 30 points better than all those guys. Right. He still just went out to win it, and it's a lot, that pressure. It's a lot to handle when you get to that level. But again, they both took each other down once, and Wyatt Henderson just got the takedown the last time and held him down. And I think, I think if you reset and you do it, like let's say Wyatt gets that takedown and it's out of bounds, and they come back to the center, and Gable's like, I got 15 seconds. I bet you Gable would get out. But I got 50. I'm going to get out and win this if he wanted to. But that's what's so crazy during that time, that thing. He was like, that was it.
Right.
Like that mindset just shifted and changed. That was an amazing thing to see. I'm excited to see how Gable bounces back from that too.
Right. Well,
match,
No, that was my second question was, now I guess he signed with the CGI too. So have you seen that? He's going to be going against Craig Jones.
Oh, Gable.
Yeah.
I did not know.
So I'll send it to you after. There's a pretty interesting clip of Craig Jones, this, of course, for hype reasons, I would imagine, talking all kinds of trash about wrestlers and all this stuff. And so, yeah, I guess, I mean, it's posted everywhere. So I guess it's legitimate, but it was shortly after that he signed where he's going to do a match against Craig Jones at the CGI 2, because the first one he did, I forgot her name, but the taller, bigger female jiu-jitsu athlete, he went against her for, again, like advertising, marketing, whatever. So now I guess supposedly Gable Stevenson was there, so that should be interesting to kind of.
We'll see how it is, and where it goes, and if he can do it. And that's what I'd say, like the path with Gable. I don't know, right? I know Gable got to see him at the Big Tens, told him great job, shook his hand. Don't have a relationship with him, but I'm excited to see. But again, right, you look at it, Olympic champion, went WWE for a little bit, went to football, UFC or coaching, or business. We'll see where he ends up, where he ends up at. But
yeah, it'll be an interesting match to see him and Craig Jones. So we'll see how
it will be. And it's the same thing, right? You look at Nolf had that match against the Jiu-Jitsu world champion, and Nolf really into it. Same with Bo Nickel and Gordon Ryan, right?
Ryan,
it's just hard when you're pulling them in the other world, right? That's where I liked when Downey went against like Gordon Ryan. He got submitted with like a power half,
right?
And then crushed him in wrestling, right? It's like when you go into somebody else's world, it's really, really tough, when they're an expert in that world, to kind of take it to them.
Yeah, I'm strong. You just said his name. I'm drawing a blank now all of a sudden. But the guy I heard him saying, I think he did like 2 jiu-jitsu workouts beforehand. The Penn State, the guy who was at Penn State is MMA now.
That's Bo Nickel, yeah.
Bo Nickel, thank you. Yeah, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on his name, but I just found that I was like, man, dude, is gutsy. But he suplexed him a few times and is like, he's just like, all right, you're gonna give me your bet. Here you go.
Exactly, right. And if that's points, like if there's points in there, like if like that's it, right? Like again, put me up against any black belt where it's like, hey, you give me points for taking your back, you give me points for getting the like certain positions. Like I could probably find a way to win and not get submitted. Right? It's gonna be boring with the time in, but like, dude, I can't submit. Like Vic can let me start in whatever submission I want. He knows so much about it. I'm not going to be able to submit Vic, right? With the same reason as like I can let him start in a single leg, probably not going to take me down, right? Like it's our different worlds, right? It's the same thing, And there's a chance, like I might have a chance of maybe catching something, and he might have a chance of like finishing it, but like it's I have hundreds of hours of working in that position, and
Right.
and vice versa, and so does he.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for popping on. I know we're a few minutes over, so I appreciate you sticking around to kind of wrap up things. But for everybody out there too, we'll have information in the show notes, descriptions and such of kind of where you can find Jake and follow him and all the things he has going on. But
Can I give a challenge to anybody else still listening here?
Yeah, for sure.
If you made it through this, like, take action, right? That's what I want to say. It's and again, if you knew, I think the world would be very different. We all would be. If we knew when we were going to die, you'd be living your life really different. And that's the hard part about it. I don't know if I have 5 days, 5 years, 50 years. But that amount of time is going to dictate the action you take. So if you are right now, take action. Like, shoot email over to Joe, shoot an email over to me, right? Say, I want to take action and this is what I'm going to do. And just watch what happens when you start with that momentum.
Yeah.
It's jake.herbert1@gmail.com, right? Joe, you can get a hold of Joe if you're listening to this. You have some sort of relationship with him. But take that action. That'll do, or even tell somebody you're gonna take action. Once you put it out there,
right?
That's what you'll start doing. What you'll say, it's insane when you look into it too. And there's tons of like different little things. Joe, have you ever called the Success Hotline with Dr. Gilbert, Rob Gilbert? Oh my God, it is my mental programming that I do every single day. So Dr. Rob Gilbert has the Success Hotline. It's in my phone. Do you mind if I give the number out?
Sure, go ahead.
973-743-4690. And the guy he's a sports psychologist in Boston.
Nice.
I'm looking for one person in the Success Hotline audience.
And he goes a message.
The luckiest person in the world.
And let me see how many here.
You've reached Success Hotline, message number 12,482. I'm dropping
12,482. So he's been doing it every day. He'll leave a different message. That's 30 some years that he's been running this hotline. You want to talk about consistency? That's 30 some years he's been running this hotline as a positive message. So every day, rather than like scrolling Instagram or doing this, whatever, I call the Success Hotline for positive mental programming. And you know what's great about Dr. Gilbert? If you leave a message or you reach out to him, he will reach out to you back. I got to have a relationship with him from that, man. But I call that message every day. A 5-minute drive on the way home, standing in line. It's just a great way to use my time to positively program and influence that software in my brain.
Yeah.
He's so true. You reach out to him, bring him on the show. You'll have such a great conversation with him, man. He is like, I'm such a fanboy of him. And it's the other way around. He's like a wrestling coach at Boston. He was a fanboy of me, but I argue that I'm a bigger fanboy of him with that consistency that he's done. A new message every day, sometimes multiple times a day for that many years in a row. And he never misses. He's never missed. It's unbelievable.
Wow. That's awesome. No, definitely. I appreciate you sharing it. I'll definitely give that a shout. And that's why I often tell, in our household, we talk about like there's either positive brainwashing or negative. It's like it's one or the other. So you got to pick which one it is. And so,
and if you're not intentional about doing it, somebody else can program your mind. And they might not want the same things. Like I tell that to my kids all the time, and something that you'll tell to your daughters, like, yes, I'm trying to brainwash you, but I'm doing it because I love you and I literally want the best for you, or what I want to help you get what you want.
Right.
I want you to be healthy, happy, and productive. That's like the core values that I use. If my kids want to do something, is it healthy for them? Does it make them happy? Is it productive?
Right.
And if it hits those three things, I'm going to be in full support of it. Now, don't get me wrong. My son comes home and says, I want to be like the world champion in baton, cheerleading. But it's healthy for him. It makes him happy. Like it's not wrestling, but it checks those boxes. So then it's just digging as to why, what's attractive about baton twirling for you. And there's a lot to that. Like, oh, that's great. That could transition into, and he might start that and end up like a bow staff fighter. I don't know. Like, you don't know where things are going to lead. So
right. Yeah. Well, good stuff, man. Thanks again. Yeah, I'll definitely we'll probably edit that into the start of it too. So make sure everyone gets that for sure.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
Thank you, Joe.
Right. Thanks so much.
Yep.
We'll see you.
Tim.